You, been playing a lot of Lethal League Blaze lately?
Yeah, man, it's been improving my endgame. Just you wait. You're gonna see a lot of beans.
Wait, were you talking about dinner? Because I don't know that I'm feeling beans tonight.
Oh, there's my ball.
So fighting games are not my strong suit. Unless your name is Tekken or you have a wicked cool gimmick, I'm going to have a hard time counting your frames, if you know what I mean. And guess which one of these things Lethal League has? Not that I'm complaining. Since fighting games have become more accessible and popular than ever before, it's important for the little guys to do something to help them stand out among the crowd. DiveKick carries on the Bushido Blade style of one-hit kill gameplay, Footsies celebrate the deep complexity of, well, Footsies, and Lethal League Blaze lets you end lives with the power of baseball! And I do mean baseball. Any and all damage you inflict is done by the baseball shared by both players, and only the baseball. You can strike the ball in 8 directions, each strike increasing the ball's speed and damage. This is where Bushido Blade rears its influence again, because at higher speeds, the ball can KO a player even from full health. But you're not without some tech options. Bunts can kill a ball's speed and reset it back to neutral, but it'll get that speed right back once it's hit again. And if you're feeling really ballsy, you can try to grab the ball and throw it. It's tricky to do, especially at high speeds, but it kills the ball's momentum and can throw your opponent off so badly it can cost them a life. On top of all of this, each character has a unique special move. Hitting the ball normally builds meter, and when the meter's full, you can trigger these moves any time while you're hitting the ball, even during windup. All these abilities give you excellent mix-up options, which I will get into in a moment. You also have this boombox here. When the ball steps into the "I'ma kill ya" speeds, hitting it will put the hitter in a sort of wind-up animation, where the speed of the ball will be represented with bars. And no one can shortcut this. You cannot launch the ball until those bars fill. So getting adept at where the ball will land is key. A key I have dropped in a sewer grate apparently. I don't know, it's a patience thing I guess. The only thing your opponent can do during a wind-up is prepare their special if they have meter. And even if you're not entirely sure where the ball is going to fly, it's not too difficult to play it safe and stay out of danger entirely. And that's something that I can do with no trouble at all. I must remember my training.
I love my ball.
This is Lethal League's best aspect. If Footsies best celebrates fighting games by taking one aspect and blowing up its premise to fleshed out proportions, Lethal League does this with mix-ups. You know, where you're going to act like you're going to do one thing, but you're actually going to do a completely different thing. Being unpredictable is a valuable asset in any fighter, but especially in Lethal League, since most of your kit is about misdirection and fakeouts. As such, all your specials will do this in different ways. Snatch vores the ball as a sort of delayed throw. Switch can, well, switch the ball's direction. Dust and Ashes can set an aerial game back to ground level. And my favorite, Jet, can bubble the ball Crystal Gem style and pop it with its speed intact. This makes Lethal League a good entry point in learning about the concept of mix-ups and mind games. Taking direct combos out of the equation lets you focus on strategy even if you don't have control over the ball at any given moment. Sure, you're missing out on building meter, but with only 4 or 5 hits to get that going, bunts don't count, it's not a huge loss. You don't always need control of the ball to punt your opponent in the face with it.
Let's get scratching.
Seems like no better time to discuss the story mode. Not the biggest strength of a fighting game, but they can still be fun. You'd be surprised on how many mains have been chosen purely on the basis of a cool backstory. Do it decently and people start caring about your all-rounder ace, or your robot skater, or your Vector the crocodile. Your base fighter template will frame their story around a tournament. The downside of going down this route is that many of the characters' endings can't be canon since you can only have one winner of a tournament, and usually that's reserved for the main characters. Though admittedly, this only becomes a problem when you start making sequels. The other option is to forego a tournament altogether in place of a series of linear events for each character and showing how each of them interacts and crosses with one another. Getting back to Lethal League Blaze, it decides to hold its arms up and go, why not both? And I wish I loved this more than I actually do. You do get this cool color-coded map, each color possibly representing a different part of Shine City, and you'll play as about half the cast as each of them individually prepare for the big underground Lethal League tournament. A couple of issues though. This story is like Gatorade. You get a hint of what the flavor is supposed to be, but ultimately it just tastes watered down. We get to see tiny aspects of our roster, some potentially interesting insight, and then the tournament happens and it's rushed to hell and back, culminating in a lukewarm final boss. The story did enough to make me care about a tournament happening in its world, and then it ends up being 4 short matches and it's over. You do get to decide which side of the fence you want to be on in any given match, but the most this does is save you from playing as a character you hate, since all the post-game dialogue is identical no matter which side you pick. I get that the plot has somewhere to go specifically, but a little tweak to the dialogue couldn't hurt, yeah? Make it a little different? This also serves to be the final nail in the coffin for the tournament segment, cause no matter who you play as, the MC has to be vague as hell as to not to say who actually wins. Since the game's mechanics and gameplay are so tight and polished, I want to say that Team Reptile did have their priorities straight. But I would have been fine starting with no story at all and having it come out post-released and have it be more developed and fleshed out. Make the story as satisfying as it is smacking dudes. But man, does smacking dudes feel good. And that's because Lethal League's art direction, sound design, and its soundtrack are all superb. Team Reptile's whole spiel can be summed up as, we really, really love Jet Set Radio. And this is a sentiment I can completely get behind. The whole roster have a distinct, cool look that even conveys how their specials work sometimes, like Jet's bubblegum or Dice using a ping pong paddle. It all looks great, but one necessary downside is that because the camera is so pulled out, you never really get a chance to appreciate all these cool designs. With the exception of these really cool 360 camera spin finishers. These can really punctuate a finishing blow, but they only happen when you're going up against the CPU. There really is no reason why this couldn't happen during online matches. If Reptile thinks that they would be too distracting to happen interspersely during a match, then just save them for the very last stock before a game ends. Seriously, I couldn't make these finishers look uncool even if I tried. And while I did say the music was good, I have less to say about it. It's lo-fi, it's funky, but it's pretty subdued all things considered. With the exception of Jet's theme. It's fitting that this is most people's favorite song in the soundtrack, including Team Reptile's probably, because the man himself, Hideki goddamn Naganuma, the composer for Jet Set Radio, made this tune. Can you tell music critique is not my strong suit? Lethal League Blaze really is an underrated fighter. The poor thing is barely pushing 100 concurrent players at any given time now. It truly deserves more love. This game started as a Flash game, making Lethal League Blaze more or less a remaster or an enhanced version rather than a proper sequel. And since the models for returning players are very identical, this could very well not be Team Reptile's top priority. Instead, that would be going to their next big game, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, which really flexes its Jet Set Radio influence. What can I say, they have good taste for a bunch of lizards. If this is the case, it did leave Lethal League Blaze left with a deficit of features, like a really crappy and underdeveloped training mode, a no-no in the FGC community, or in me and Carrot's case, being unable to queue together in Team 2-on-2. Not that it would help much, since due to the low player count, I found myself queuing for excessive periods of time, in both free play and ranked. And the ones I do find in ranked are the super committed, refined players that give me a good old, oh, we're back to this again. I wish I could do more for this game to boost its numbers. but as it stands, the best I can do is give it a very hearty recommendation. This has been Crispy the Sheep. Play ball!